Krishna Caitanya
The following is a class given by His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaja on September 11th, 1979 in Los Angeles, California. The class begins with a reading from the Caitanya Caritāmrita, Adi Līlā, Chapter 7, Text 34.
Our Mother Durga got the special mercy of Lord Chaitanya, and that very place, it said in the Navadip Prikram Mahatma, or the glories of the Navadip Dham, that anyone who practices devotional service there becomes blessed by Srimati Radharani. So when we went there, by Radharani's mercy, the Sevite, or worshippers of the Jagannath Subhadra Balaram temple of Rajapur in Simantudweep, the island of hearing. Each of the 9 islands of Navadip correspond with one of the 9 practices of devotional service. Hearing, chanting, remembering, etc. The center island is Atma Nivedhanam, full surrender, self-surrender. So this island, just like a lotus has a center and the petals come out, 8 petals coming out from the lotus, with the center being the full surrender, this petal is the island of hearing, which is most important. So when we went there and heard the transcendental words from Srila Rameshwar Swami's lips, he spoke on Srimati Radharani. And by Radharani's mercy, the people there, they've said, please take over the worship of Jagannath. They explained to us the history of Jagannath. That according to the Navadip Mahatma, and according to the eternal associates of Lord Chaitanya, like Narahari Chakravarti Thakur, in the previous thousands of years ago, Lord Jagannath was being disturbed by a demon called Raktabahu. And due to that disturbance, he decided to visit Navadip Dham. Actually, he arranged that he wanted to come to Navadip, so he had to have an excuse, so he had this demon come at that time. And his servants, their mood is to protect Jagannath, they took him up to Navadip. There he could enjoy meditating on his incarnation as Lord Chaitanya for some time. After some time, some devotee went and annihilated that Raktabahu demon, and again he returned to Jagannath Puri. This is the historical fact. About 500 years ago, during the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, one very great and humble devotee known as Jogesh Ganguly, he was feeling great separation from Lord Chaitanya because he was blind. No one would take him when they went every year to Jagannath Puri. And he was thinking, how will I ever worship Jagannath? So he begged people, please take me to Jagannath Puri. So they agreed, yes, we will take you. But in the end, no one would take him. Because the mode of transportation was walking, and who would walk so far? With a blind man over the difficult paths and etc., so many river crossings. So he was crying and crying, no one would take him. He was crying, lamenting. When he went to sleep, Lord Jagannath came in his dream and said, all right, I will benedict you, you may worship me. In the morning, go to the Ganges and bathe there. I will come to you in the form of a very large log. You take this log to a particular leper carpenter, and he will carve my form, and you establish me and worship me. And thus I will remain with you always. So, very excited when the blind Brahmin awoke, he prepared and went to the Ganges and bathed, and wonderfully enough, the Lord's words came true. A very large log touched against his body. He called the villagers. They came down, lifted up the log onto the shore, and according to his direction, they took it to this leper carpenter. So they requested the leper that you please carve Jagannath deities. The leper said, me? Carve Jagannath? I'm a leper. Look at my hands. I have got only stubs. There's the pus. And the maggots from the flies are crawling in the stubs of my hand. And the black blood is oozing out. How can I carve a Jagannath? My disease and pus will go on his murti. This I cannot do. So they said, no, Jagannath has ordered you must do. Never mind. His order takes precedence over these considerations. You must do this. This is the order of Jagannath. So that leper carpenter finally accepted, and he started to carve by hand chisel, and he carved out Murti of Jagannath, Subhadra, Balaram. As he is finishing the Jagannath, the last Murti, while he's carving, it's so difficult. He's hitting, the hands are so sore. Pus squirts out, and he feels such pain. He has to set down his implement, again rest, wait. Again, a few more hits, so painful, so sore, very tender. Finally, he completes the Jagannath set of deities. As he completes, he becomes completely cured of his leprosy. So these deities were taken and installed, and they were worshipped for hundreds of years. This Jagannath is very particular about his devotee worshipping him with the proper care and attention. So these devotees gradually started to water down the puja. First there were 6 offerings, then it was 4, then it was 3, 2, 1, once a year. Then 1 year, they forgot. So Jagannath, whole family was completely wiped out by smallpox. The original love and devotion of Jogesh Ganguly, who had long ago gone back to Godhead, that had gradually been not maintained by the descendants due to their material distraction. So Jagannath was simply sitting there alone for a long time. Gradually he became covered over by a huge mound of white ants. About 80 years ago, a Brahmin called Chakravarti had another dream that there was a Jagannath Murti within a white ant hill. So he went there, and he dug to find, and in the very middle, white ants are known also as termites. And Jagannath is carved of wood, and termites eat wood. In fact, termites in India are so ferocious, they eat anything organic. In fact, in Bhubaneswar, they put concrete down underneath the wooden almirahs for keeping closed, and the termites eat through the concrete and go into the wood. They're so ferocious. But somehow Jagannath, although he was within the middle of this termite hill, he was unscathed. He was as new as could be. So for 80 years, the grandfather, son, and then finally the grandson, they were worshipping, 3 generations. The grandson, 87 years old, he was the one who requested us to take over the puja, that he felt that ISKCON was the only organization in Mayapur and in Bengal who had the devotion and the capacity to properly worship Jagannath. So when I asked Rameshwar Swami what he thought, His Divine Grace told me that Prabhupada told him that eventually we'll be required to take responsibility for all these temples. So we should take this also as our duty. And all the devotees from around the world that were present at the festival, they all contributed a little something. About 5,000 rupees was raised spontaneously from the different devotees. And we began the process of getting the land transferred, and that money was kept for the initial work on the Jagannath Mandir. Other money was also allotted from different trusts. So it was much more complicated than we thought. There were 47 shareholders, because in those 3 generations, they had many children, and they had children, and they had children. And it had become 43 members, or 47 members, in that 80 years. And some members, their share was 4 inches. But they were refusing to sign that, well, this is our birthright, so many things. So we were feeling that there's some difficulty. Actually, Nitai Chandas, he worked very hard on this. So I gave an instruction, till they sign over, don't start worshipping Jagannath, because once you start worshipping, then they'll think that we're obligated. Because once you begin worshiping deity, how can you stop? Your relationship is already there. So don't start to worship until they give us the land. Otherwise there may be some complication. They may not give it in the end. It will be in a limbo state. So I told this to my regional secretary, who delayed about 3 days to tell it to the pujari, who went ahead, and he went over and he offered big plates of Radha Madhav Bhoga, the same Bhoga is offered to Radha Madhav 3 times every day to Jagannath. After 3 days, the regional secretary finally got around to telling him, and so he felt guilty. He never admitted that he had already began giving the prasad, the food, Bhoga, to the Lord. So he just stopped for another 3 days. I was out at the time. So what happened was, after 3 days, this pujari, when he was sleeping, he saw a dream where he went to the Jagannath Mandir, opened the door. The no Jagannath. No Jagannath, no Subhadra, no Balaram. Where did they go? He looked everywhere, he couldn't find them. Finally looked across the field, and there he saw Jagannath, Subhadra, Balaram walking over the field saying, we're going to take prasad with Radha Madhav for 3 days, you haven't fed us. So when the pujari woke up, he was immediately prepared for the bhoga, took it over, offered. So by Jagannath's mercy, finally everyone signed, and we prepared new clothes for Jagannath, and we made nice arrangement and started to design how to improve. And actually Jagannath is loved by all the people. In fact, the local Muslims, they give more donations than the Hindus. Of course, donation means flowers, fruits. Because Jagannath, he's very quick to give his mercy. Immediate. So there was one Muslim man who tried everything, but he could never get a son. So someone told him, listen, you just go and offer some offering to Jagannath, and you pray to him to give you a son. He will give you. So the Muslim went and he made offering to Jagannath, bowed down, prayed, please Lord Jagannath, give me a son. And then I will give you offerings for the rest of my life. So within very short time, within 1 year, he got a male child. So then a few others followed suit. So the local Muslims there, during the recent riots, they actually protected the Jagannath Mandir. Although there was no actual riot in Mayapur, but there was some apprehension that it may spread from the 40-mile distance where it was occurring. But here there was no problem at Jagannath Mandir. Everything that was protected by both communities. Of course, the previous Brahma, he tells many stories, which I would just relate one just to give you a sample. That one day there were 3 college students who were walking down the dirt road in front of Jagannath. At that time it was late at night. So he was a very poor Brahmana. His custom was to simply light a oil lamp. He didn't have any money for ghee, so he put some oil. But he had very little oil, so after an hour or so it would run dry, and he would just sit there chanting his japa, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So these boys came, they saw the building, they said, what is this? What is this place? Then they saw the Brahmin in the shadows, said, what is this? Is a Jagannath Subhadra Balaram Mandir? They came, looked. Where? I don't see any deities. It's all dark. Don't you have any light? He says, no, the light has gone out. I have no more oil. Oh, there's no Jagannath here. There's no deity here. Listen, oh buddy, I think you're just pulling our leg. You're just fooling us. And they walked off. After they got about 15 steps, where the oil wick was, a huge 18-inch blue flame shot up. And the whole Jagannath room was illuminated, just like by bright light. So the Brahmin called back, oh, boys, come back. Please come. So they came back, said, Jagannath has lit the room for you, but look at the oil lamp. They looked, no oil, just flame. Hare Krishna, Hare. They started, it's a custom to put out the tongue and pull the ear when you make an offense. So they started bowing down, circumambulating, and the Brahmin told, you are blessed by Jagannath. You must have been devotee in your previous life. Otherwise, why he would have brought you back like this? This is to prove to you that Jagannath is present. Now you surrender yourself to Krishna. You engage in his pure devotional service. So the boy took a very serious, he promised, I will chant Hare Krishna, I will follow, paid his obeisances, and then he went back. So like this, there are many, many stories about this Jagannath. Before ISKCON, you'll be surprised to know already what has happened since ISKCON. Jagannath is very nice. So, one day, the pujari, he made a mistake. And he mixed the bathing ingredients with some salt or something, I forget, something improper. And after bathing Jagannath, he went on his bicycle and he was riding down the road. In the middle of the road, there was a man laying down. As soon as the pujari drove by on his bicycle by the man, he jumped up and screamed and threw him off the bicycle and ran off. And then somebody came, picked him up, and he said, "Oh, you're the Jagannath Pujari. What'd you do wrong today?" Then he thought about it and said, "Oh." This happened twice in two different ways where they made a mistake, two different people, and immediately, within half an hour, they got, what do you say, whammied. They got taught, they got the blessings of Lord Jagannath. They were reminded that they have to be careful when they worship him. So one day what happened is the pujari, he brought down the bogat. Now we're preparing prasad there. They've given us a house and a very nice bamboo orchard. One other man has donated about 1 acre of land that has some bamboos, some golok champa tree, some mango tree, and many other people, a few other, they want to give us land. This land is very wonderful in Mayapur because it never floods. It's the highest land in the whole Nadia district. It's very, very good to have, because in case there is a flood, we can take our cows there. So, very nice. There's one small house with 3 bedrooms and no other rooms, just 3 bedrooms and a porch and a well. And nearby that house, there's one area where I discovered, I don't know if it has any special significance or just by accident, but it was a raised area. I found that there was a type of white flower which is only used to worship Lord Shiva and Durga, never used for Krishna worship. And growing with it was a grove of wild tulsi. I mean, real tulsi, but I mean, it was just growing there. Ordinarily, tulsi doesn't just grow. You don't find it everywhere. I don't know if maybe it was planted. I was thinking that because here the Shiva and Durga plant and the tulsis together, maybe this is the place where Parvati got mercy. Of course, I can't say for sure. But there's many very interesting things in that area. So one day the pujari brought the boga from the mandir, and he realized that he forgot to bring the tulsi. And Jagannath will not accept any prasad without tulsi. So he was thinking what to do. The trouble was that there were so many children all around, because the children wait for after the offering for the little Mahaprasad. So about 50 children were waiting, playing and screaming, so that if I go and get the tulsi leaf, which is at least 100 yards away at the house, then if I carry the prasad there and back, first I may drop it, because they already put it out from the tiffin into the whole plate. It'll get cold. It'll somehow might get spoiled. If I leave it here and go and get it, the kids may look at it, touch it, ruin the offering. So he decided what to do. I'll just offer it to Jagannath as it is. So he took it and he meditated. He put it in the deity room, prayed to Jagannath that he would not take any offense, closed the door. Mind, there's only one door to this temple. There's no side door. One door closes the door. This is important he closed the door. Bowed down, said the mantras, said his Gayatri, waited 15 minutes, and he opened the door. When he opened the door, there on top of the plate, where there was 2 sabjis, chutney, chapati, dal, fry, salt, lemon, and a big pile of rice. On top of the rice, there was a big clump of freshly picked tulsi. Where did it come from? We have not figured out yet. If you can tell me, you may solve the mystery. So, Jagannath is very kind that he is allowing ISKCON to worship him, and we pray that he will be pleased with our service, although we are not so capable. So like this, there are many wonderful places around India, around especially Bengal, which are very spiritually potent, and ultimately ISKCON will definitely have to spread Krishna consciousness through them and manage them. But these are just some of the things which have been happening recently at Mayapur. The verses we read today mention that Lord Chaitanya is always accompanied by Nityananda, his expansion, and by the Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, and Kshirodakshai Vishnu. We know that Mahavishnu is Jayadvaita, Sriyadvaita, Sitanath, and Kshirodakshai Vishnu is the son of Nityananda. Nityananda had two wives, Janavi and Bahuda. So, his son was Vibhadra Prabhu, and his daughter was Ganga Devi. So, Birchandra was actually Kshirodakshai Vishnu. He preached all over Bengal. He established so many temples and made so many Vaishnavas for Lord Nityananda. He is a great devotee in his transcendental pastimes. So, one day I had the opportunity to visit the residence of Nityananda at Kordaha, on the bank of the sacred Ganges, and I saw the samadhi of the umbilical cord of Birbhadra Prabhu and Ganga Devi. And there is a temple of Shyama Sundara. And I asked the devotees nearby that place, there's a temple of Shyama Sundara. How did Shyama Sundara come here? And so they told me the story of Birchandra Prabhu and how he brought Shyama Sundar 1,000 miles, although he weighed 5 tons without lifting a hand. Birchandra Prabhu was engaged in Sankirtan with all his devotees with him, and he was preaching all over the countryside. And he was up near the Hussain Shah next descendant palace in the vicinity, and he was doing big preaching all over. Actually, he's famous because as fast as the Muslims would go and convert the Hindus to Islam religion, he would go and convert twice as many as Vaishnavas. He would go and initiate all of them, and after initiate, all would remain pure in the Vaishnava principle. He was so powerful a preacher. So the Nawab was a little bit afraid of saintly people, but he also was hoping that he was a bogus. So he wanted to actually tried to catch him, and if he did prove to be an untrue sadhu, he would annihilate him and end the problem. So he sent someone to please bring him to the palace. So Birabhadra went to the palace of the Shah, and going to the palace, he saw on the outside a beautiful black rock, embedded in the wall of the fortress. Huge rock, right in the very base, like a foundation stone. And he looked at it, and he saw an amazing thing. The rock was sweating. When he saw the rock sweating, he became very attracted. And so he went inside and he saw the Shah, and he was thinking that I must get that rock. So the Shah was testing him, and he said, "You are a real sadhu?" He said, "I am, following the order of my spiritual master. He has empowered me to preach. Please, if you cure him, then I will accept that you are a real sadhu." So, Birabhadra Prabhu gave him the Harinam and cured him of his disease. The Shah was very pleased. He said, "All right, I am satisfied you are a bona fide sadhu." He also explained so many scriptures, defeated so many pandits there. The Shah was very satisfied. He said, "What do you want? You ask me what you want, I will give you." He said, "I would just like the black rock outside at the fortress wall." The king said, "What? A black rock? What rock is this?" "You have one rock, I just would like to have." So the king, Shah, goes out, looks, and here he sees this big black stone in the wall of the fortress. He said, "How are you going to get out that rock? It weighs at least, even 1,000 men couldn't take it out. And if you take it out, the whole fortress will fall down." So Birabhadra said, "That's all right. You just say I can have the rock, I'll worry about it." So they said, "All right, if you can take it out, you can have it." So then Birabhadra Prabhu came with the Sankirtan party, and they did kirtan by the side of the rock, jumping up and down kirtan. The rock slowly edged out, fell down. So then he said, "Ask the king, please, if you would wrap the rock in straw and drop it in the Ganges for me." The king said, "What?" It's the craziest thing I ever heard. I'm just asked this one thing. So he got 500 people, wrap the rock in straw, and carry it on big carts, and then Birabhadra came, touched it, and then it was tossed into the river. As soon as it hit the Ganges, it floated like a balloon and floated down the Ganges. Meanwhile, Birabhadra went chanting off with his Sankirtan party. And they gradually did kirtan, headed down the Ganges to Khordha, which is about 30 or 40 miles north of Calcutta. There the rock floated down and stopped at Khordha by the bank of the river. So there eventually Birabhadra Prabhu came and had the rock taken out, and he saw in a dream that the deity, the form of Radha Krishna, of Radha Shyam Sundar. So he wanted to make that form. So first he cut a piece off the rock and carved two deities of Radha Krishna. After they were had carved by the devotee craftsman. He looked, had to give him the exact instruction. He said, no, they're too small. So he gave them a name. I forgot what the name are, the other two, but he installed them in another place. And then he took another piece off the other side of the rock. And he carved two more deities. This time he gave the exact instruction. After they finished these, he looked. The deities are too big. So they can take those deities and install them in another place. So this time he said, you must get just in between. So this time again they carved the deities. And this time they were just according to what he had seen in his dream. So he installed those deities there, Radha, Shyama Sundar. And Lord Nityananda, he left some very precious items at that temple. One day Lord Chaitanya, in ecstasy, he was chanting, and from the top of his head came a triangular-shaped stone from his Brahma Rudra. That was grabbed by Nityananda and kept in a bag around his neck. He would keep three things around his neck. He kept a huge Shaligram Shila, this big, which is in the form of Ananta Seshanag. It is so many snakes curled around and around, and one can see within it there's so many chakras and different, huge Shaligram. There's nothing like it anywhere. That is the Shaligram of Ananta Seshanag, who of course is an incarnation of Nityananda, Balaram. And one more thing, he had a special self-manifest Shankarshan Shiva in the form of a Shiva Linga made of a indestructible blue-gray material which is not ordinarily seen on this planet. So these three objects were left in that temple. So the local pujari told me, I asked how the puja is going. He said that about 10 years ago, there were some mistakes in the puja and the deity started to sweat. And whenever the deity sweats, the pujaris die. So the pujaris there are very careful to keep the deity very cool and well taken care of. So there are so many pastimes of the Lord, and actually we are talking about Lord Chaitanya's sannyas. And there's just one thing that comes to mind is when Lord Chaitanya finally decided to leave Navadvip, he couldn't tell his mother, he couldn't tell his wife. They would never agree to let him do tapasya, to do penance. He's the Lord. He's their loved one. So he decided, and one night he just left and headed towards Katwa, which is about 40 miles north of Mayapur, to the ashram of Keshav Bharati, his sannyas guru. So when he went, after a little while, Sachi Mata realized something is wrong in the house. She got up, looked, where's my Nimai? Where's Nimai? Nimai! 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 She realized he is gone, just like his elder brother. He is gone and taken sannyas. She went out looking everywhere. So she started wandering through the fields. Wandering, she went out into the fields. She went to the 3 villages later, and she was asking everyone, where is my Nimai? Where is my Nimai? Where is my Nimai? When the people wouldn't answer her. She said, you are all nirdhaya. You have no mercy, no compassion. You won't tell me where my Nimai has gone. So this year, during the big flood, that village of Nidoya, that village where Sachi Mata went for 500 years, has been known by the name of Nidoya, from her statement. It was flooded, and we went there and distributed prasadam. And everyone, Hindu, Muslim, Brahmin, Sudra, everyone, they came and took prasad. They're very appreciative. So I was just thinking how that place was there and how the name of Nidoya is still known because they didn't have mercy on Sachi Mata. That Lord Chaitanya, to preach Krishna consciousness, he left his birthplace to travel all over India and train up his followers how to preach this Sankirtan, which is the life and soul. So sometimes it is necessary to cause some people some inconvenience of separation, namely family, friends, and take the greater mission in hand. Of course, Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself. He has done this, what to speak of us. Sometimes we may have to make great sacrifices, no matter what position we may be in. When we see that through that sacrifice I can actually increase my service to spread the Sankirtan movement. So of course, actually it's already very late. There were a few more things that happened. But we can leave it for some other day.